Before we dive in, viewer discretion is advised. This content is for entertainment purposes. What unfolds when a daytime television titan pushes the limit, only for a Hollywood icon to push back with devastating force? You are about to bear witness to the single most incendiary live television event in a generation. A showdown so raw, so volatile. It would conclude with one of television's most formidable personalities walking off her own set, never to return. This is the chronicle of how Joy Behar's reign on the panel met a stunning, abrupt end during what was supposed to be just another relaxed celebrity interview. If you believe you've seen on-air tension, you are about to be re-educated. A palpable buzz filled the studio the moment the broadcast returned from commercial. Joy, perched in her command chair, shuffled her cards and stared down the lens of camera 2 with theatrical precision. That glint rested in her eye, the one audiences had memorized, as the warning sign that she was about to break script. "Welcome back to the panel," Joy announced in her unmistakable New York accent. "We're joined by Academy Award winner Kevin Sarcey, here to discuss his newest independent film." "Kevin, it's a pleasure." Kevin, composed in a charcoal suit, sat opposite her like carved stone. His polite smile didn't touch his eyes. "Thank you for having me, Joy," he replied, each syllable controlled. "It is always interesting to be on live television." That word, interesting, hung in the space between them like a slow-moving storm. Joy leaned forward, tapping her pen rhythmically against her desk. A signal longtime viewers recognized. She was stepping off the agreed path. "You know, Kevin," she began slowly, "I must ask, how do you personally define redemption?" The air changed. A muscle twitched in Kevin's jaw, but the smile stayed. "Redemption," he answered carefully, "is about forward movement. The work we choose to do next. But is it really so simple?" Joy pressed. "Can someone just decide they are redeemed? Does the world have to play along?" Kevin shifted, eyes sharpening. "We live in a society that believes in rebuilding lives." Joy pounced. "Yes, but what about those who were not given the luxury of rebuilding?" Silence followed. Cameras zoomed closer. Crew exchanged frantic looks. Joy had just shattered pre-production agreements live on air. Kevin inhaled slowly. The smile vanished. "I came here to discuss my new film. I suggest," he said, voice dropping into dangerous calm, "that we tread carefully." But Joy only leaned in closer. "Careful? Kevin, I'm asking the questions everyone wants answered." The fuse was lit. Tension clung to the studio walls like smoke. The audience sat completely silent, sensing something irreversible forming between the host and her guest. Even the other panelists shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Joy Behar had entered territory unapproved, unplanned, and undeniably hostile. Kevin Sarcey settled back into his chair, posture still controlled, but his eyes were far colder now, ice beneath glass. His practiced charm slipped away, revealing the steely spine beneath. "Joy," he began, his tone sharp yet steady. "You are skating toward presumption." Joy answered before he finished breathing. "And you're skating away from accountability." The crowd reacted, not with sound, but with a collective tightening. This was no longer conversation. It was provocation. Kevin's fingers curled around the arms of his chair. "Redemption is not self-appointed," he replied, "but public trials conducted, under the guise of journalism, are hardly pathways to truth." Joy ignored him. "Do you believe talent grants immunity?" Something in Kevin's gaze shifted. "I believe," he said slowly, "that we must not weaponize platforms to publicly execute people." One of Joy's co-hosts cleared her throat softly, a desperate attempt to diffuse. Joy didn't notice. "Kevin," she continued, "people are asking how someone can return expecting applause when history remains unresolved." Kevin's eyes narrowed. "Are you asking? Or accusing?" "I'm questioning," she fired back. "That's my job." "No," Kevin corrected, voice suddenly rising. "Your job is to host conversations, not orchestrate ambushes." The producer appeared behind the cameras, frantically signaling to cut to break. But Joy pushed forward. "So what about those who suffered because of powerful people?" Kevin leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper. "Careful. Is that a threat?" Joy demanded. "It is a warning," Kevin replied, "because the path you're choosing will expose more than you intend." The studio froze. Crew stopped breathing. Kevin Sarcey had turned the interrogation back toward its origin. Let us discuss, Kevin continued, your own brand of destruction. Joy's face went blank. Excuse me. You speak of consequences, Kevin said, yet ignore the ones you created. Joy's eyes flickered with the first sign of doubt. Kevin pressed. You've spent years dismantling people on this set. Careers damaged. Reputations stained. Not for truth. For ratings. Joy sat silent, trembling with anger and shock. The shift was complete. The interview had inverted. Joy Behar had always believed she controlled the narrative. That day, she learned otherwise. Kevin Spacey leaned forward, voice gaining momentum like a tightening storm. Your platform became a battlefield long before I arrived. Joy's shoulders straightened. I asked the questions audiences demand. Kevin shook his head slowly. No, you ask questions that bleed people. The other hosts watched helplessly. One attempted a nervous laugh. Another whispered for calm. But the moment was locked. Two titans colliding with no brakes. Kevin continued. You want to discuss accountability? Then we begin with you. Do you recall the young actor who left this stage in tears after you questioned his personal trauma for shock value? Joy blinked. This is nonsense. Is it? Kevin countered. Even now, you refuse responsibility. He listed more. The environmental activist you ambushed about his divorce. The cookbook author you mocked on live television. The teenage inventor you implied stole her own research. Joy's breathing became shallow. Those interviews were legitimate. Kevin smiled, cold, razor sharp. No, they were entertainment dressed as moral justice. Joy opened her mouth, but no words arrived. Kevin lowered his tone. You think you are the executioner. Today, you meet the mirror. The audience gasped under their breath. Joy finally spoke. You are digging for cheap drama. No, Kevin said. I am returning yours. Her hand trembled against the table. She steadied herself. This is my show. Kevin's response was lethal. Not anymore. Silence electrified the air. Joy stood abruptly, knocking her chair back. The sound echoed across the studio like a gunshot. I don't have to tolerate this, she said, voice breaking. Kevin didn't flinch. Walk away then. The world will see what accountability looks like. The audience sat forward, breath caught. Joy stared at him, betrayal etched across her face. You came here to provoke, she whispered. I came to speak, he replied softly. You turned it into war. Her tears fell, silent, heavy, unstoppable. A titan was cracking. The studio had transformed into a theater of unraveling control. Joy Behar stood at the center, shoulders shaking, mascara cutting black trails along her cheeks. She looked out toward the silent rows of seats, toward the cameras transmitting her collapse to millions. Kevin Spacey remained seated, his voice level. This is what happens, he said, when the blade you wield finally swings toward you. Joy turned away, unable to face him. You think you know everything? She cried. I know the truth always arrives, Kevin answered, even when delayed. Her co-host, Marla, rose from her seat. Joy, she whispered urgently, sit down. Joy didn't move. No, I'm finished. I won't sit here and be slaughtered. Kevin stood slowly, eyes never leaving hers. You have done the slaughtering for years. Now the audience finally sees it. You're twisting everything. Joy gasped. Kevin shook his head. No, I am revealing it. Joy staggered backward, gripping the edge of the table. The veneer of the indestructible host had evaporated. In its place stood someone shaken, exposed, human. Her voice cracked. Why are you doing this? Kevin answered without hesitation. Because you demanded accountability from others. Today, you faced your own. Joy stared into the camera lens, her world, her kingdom, and realized she no longer controlled it. A long silence followed. Then, with a trembling sigh, she whispered, I'm done. Gasps rippled across the room. Joy turned and walked off stage. The audience watched the empty doorway she vanished through. Kevin remained still, expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth of power. The cameras slowly faded to black. It was over. Joy Behar had walked off the set of the panel, and she would never return. The most explosive broadcast in daytime television history had carved itself permanently into the culture. It was not the interview anyone expected, but it was the moment everyone would remember. Kevin Spacey adjusted his jacket, nodded to the remaining hosts, and exited with quiet dignity. Outside the studio walls, a storm waited. Articles to be written, debates to erupt, careers to shift. But inside the studio, silence. A throne stood empty, a legacy shattered. A new chapter in television history had begun.